Sangoma Society, where we demystify the astral and the ancestral. This is our new moon reading for the new moon in Libra happening this Saturday, the 14th of October 2023, with a solar eclipse in Libra on the same day, beginning the final eclipse season for 2023. We're about 2/3 of the way through Libra season as we enter this eclipse season, and what a trying time it has been. Globally, we have seen events unfolding that tell us that nothing is a business as usual. We've had Mars move out of Libra and into Scorpio, finally ending that indecisive and weighing up all sides aspect of that transit and bringing us into a place where we can act more decisively. We still have Mercury in Libra, which means, again, we are still weighing our words and how it is that we bring across what we want to bring across, which is beautiful, because we've also had Venus finally move out of Leo and into Virgo, so making us think less me, and bringing in a little bit more consideration into those aspects that this particular lunation rules, which is that of our relationships with ourselves, our romantic relationships, and most especially our relationships with our community. Halfway through this eclipse season, we're going to see a trine between Venus and Jupiter, which is going to present an opportunity in which we can see other possibilities for how our relationships could play out. If you recall, during the time that Venus was retrograde, we discouraged taking action, decisive action to end relationships just based on what the energy was giving you, and encouraged you to use that time for observation so that you could be much more intentional with the decisions that you make in those aspects of your life. And this is what that season is going to give an opportunity for. We have seen in the past few months a lot of volatile movement in the space of relationships. First of all, romantically, until about a few weeks ago, you couldn't duck or dive a divorce announcement. It was brutal. That Venus retrograde in Leo said, I am here to serve my own needs, without any second thought. And we discouraged leaning too heavily into that energy, to give ourselves the opportunity to see what the energy brought to the surface, so that we could introspect more about how it is that we are showing up in our relationships. And now, as we enter into eclipse season, we're going to change the tune a little bit and say, it's time to take action. It's time to use your words, use yourself, use your presence, show up, take action. And Mars is going to support you in this, as Mars has just entered Scorpio, where it's much more supportive of decisive action than where it stood before. If you haven't joined us before, welcome to Sangoma Society, where we demystify the astral and the ancestral. I am Makhosi Nomabutho, and we do these readings for the individual who is looking to find harmony between themselves and the movements of the astral bodies, because they already know that these movements affect them, and in their growing awareness are looking to be much more intentional with how they show up during the various transits and lunations. Now we have the new moon in Libra happening after Lucky Friday the 13th on the 14th of October, when the moon and the sun are in the same sign. This signals a new moon, the beginning of a new lunar cycle. This is a beautiful time for setting clear intentions. But being that we're going to be having a eclipse, it is going to be encouraged that you use this opportunity to observe what has been brought to your attention and allow yourself to move towards your intention by releasing whatever it is that doesn't serve you, especially in the areas of our relationships. A planet that has had a lot of impact on the transits that we're seeing now and on this new moon and what we're moving into is Mars, which is quite a fast-moving planet. But Mars in Libra represented this moment in which we were called to weigh up all sides, and we were inclined to weigh up all sides, and it may have hindered us taking action. However, when we did take action, it was action that was measured and deeply considered, as can be signaled by the scales of justice, which represent Libra. As Mars moves out of Libra and into Scorpio, we may see themes that could look like vengeance, could look like comeuppance, could look like karma, could look like the tolling of a clock. And that coincides with another event that happened with a planet that we've been watching quite closely in this house this year, which is Pluto. Pluto just stationed direct in Capricorn on the 10th of October, which, when I looked at it, I saw the telling of time and truth, and how things come to bear, how all things come to be faced. When Pluto was in retrograde, we looked inward. And when Pluto moves forward, we look outward at what it is, the spaces in which Pluto rules. Pluto is a very slow-moving planet, which often governs generational moves. And we're looking at Pluto moving into Aquarius in the early part of next year, and this year as that foundation year, signaling what could come when Pluto makes those moves. And there was such optimism for me when I first looked at the movements of Pluto this year. And seeing how it's been playing out, I've been learning so much about other things to consider when we make our own considerations. And for me, I often associate Pluto with secrets, what is hidden, the underworld, and that is a place of truth, the inescapable truth, the truth that is, whether we like it or not, the truth that remains constant. And when we make our decisions in life. Sometimes we find ourselves in a place where we tell ourselves stories, where we cloud our decision making with our hopes and desires for how it should be, or how it could be, or what would sit better in our consciousness in order to justify the actions that we take. But Pluto says that regardless of the story we may tell ourselves, the truth will remain what it is. It will not care what the passage of time says. We say that history is told from the perspective of the victors, but with enough time passed, history is told from the perspective of the truth. And it's undeniable to all of us that these unprecedented times that we have been living through are those moments that shape history. And this particular eclipse season is one such sharpened moment in time. There is no doubt that the events that are unfolding under this eclipse season will mark a moment in history. And I feel that when I observe the movements of these celestial bodies and I see Pluto stationing direct right ahead of this eclipse, with Mercury sitting in Libra, as we experience this eclipse in the South Node in Libra, in the scales of justice, say, where is your voice at this moment? Which side of truth do you find yourself standing on? We're living through terrifying times, politically, globally speaking. And we're living through moments that will define us to ourselves in terms of our own integrity. This is a moment that asks us what our truth is and where we will stand with that truth in the age that is to come. Because the consequences of it will be inescapable for all of us. Whatever the new age brings, whether it is the dawn of fascism or the dawn of a new way of relating to one another as humanity on this planet that we call home. Each and every one of us will have our own part in it, our own story that we will tell, our own story that we are shaping, that we are making real in the actions that we take. You see, we discouraged taking rash action during the Venus retrograde in relation to our broader relationships, and we discouraged taking rash action to have big conversations during the Mercury retrograde. We encouraged waiting it out so that we could have the individual experience of observing ourselves and how we show up in relation to those whom we are connected to, so that we could observe better how others show up in those dynamics and see better what part it is that we play in order for us to hold ourselves accountable and take action which is less regrettable, in the sense that because it is more considered, because it is better interrogated, we would be able to stand in it with integrity and not ricochet or renege on our actions. So that when we do take action, we take decisive action that we can build on, rather than action that we would react to, reactive action that was reactive to the environment that would then lead to more reaction, as opposed to using the opportunity to observe ourselves and introspect and reflect, as the retrograde season gives us the opportunity to do. When that trine happens on the 21st of October between Venus in Virgo and Jupiter in Taurus, we're going to have this wonderful opportunity to see the spaces in which we can grow in our relationships. Whether it is that ending a relationship is a thing that will bring that growth, or recommitting to a relationship is what will bring it, we will have this opportunity to see what is possible. This will touch on aspects of finances as well. And I think with Uranus and Taurus as well, sovereignty, agency. Eclipse seasons often call on us to surrender. It's so easy to say that word. There's a karmic force, a fated sense of how things fall during the course of an eclipse. And when we hear the word surrender, we often think it means that we have no part to play. But often, surrender requires a certain amount of courage. Often, surrender requires a certain amount of a discarding of the story to stand in what is true and face it for what it is. And at this moment in time, whether these words hit home for you in your personal life, or as you reflect on the unfolding global events as they play out in the occupied territories of Palestine, whatever it is, you have a voice, you have a personhood, a part to play as a part of the greater whole of humanity. And you can use your voice, and you can use the opportunity of revelation to learn, to understand. Perhaps allow Mercury in Libra to give you the pause and consideration before you use your voice. to learn before you speak. And let the eclipse illuminate the things that are being done in what would be the darkness of the media blackout that we're in, or the deliberate miscommunication of events. Let this eclipse season bring truth into your life, and allow yourself to meet these truths in your integrity. I think with that, we can go into some journal prompts for this new moon in Libra. How do I show up for myself in the life that I am living? How do I show up for myself in the life that I am living? How do I show up in my community? How do I show up in my community? Do I like the way in which I show up for myself and for my community? Why? If I could change one thing about how I show up in my community and for myself, what would it be? How soon can I begin to show up in this way? Makhosi. This has been the new moon reading for the new moon in Libra 2023, taking place this Saturday, the 14th of October, following Lucky Friday, the 13th. If you would like to lean into your introspection and what this new moon is bringing to the surface, we would encourage you to use clearing into consciousness as a vehicle for introspection at this time. We found in the past that clearing into consciousness during the eclipse has been such a powerful vehicle. We have no doubt that it can be that powerful vehicle that you use to gain clarity of intent for the life that you're building and deepening that relationship that you have with your ancestors at this time. I look forward to seeing you in there. Mina Makhosi Nomabutho, and this is Sangoma Society. Until next time, Makukai. Hello and welcome to Sangoma Society, where we demystify